What single question reveals the most about a person? What's your ideal sandwich? This is my dating app opener. Not a lot of people ask about sandwiches, so they don't usually have an answer. If they can answer, they can think on their feet and come back quick, and they're willing to play along with the game. If they can't, they need time to deal with questions they aren't prepared for. If they won't, they're kind of serious. If they lecture you about how sandwiches are unhealthy, run. I go with PB&J a lot, but that's because it's easy. Ideal. White, mayo, ham, Swiss, lettuce and tomato. It's picturesque, it's delicious, it's got a variety of textures and flavors that combine nicely, and it's not that difficult to do, just requires some stuff that I usually don't readily have on hand. The shopping cart is the ultimate litmus test for whether a person is capable of self-governing. To return the shopping cart is an easy, convenient task, and one which we all recognize as the correct, appropriate thing to do. The return of the shopping cart is objectively right. There are no situations other than dire emergencies in which a person is not able to return their cart. Simultaneously, it is not illegal to abandon your shopping cart. Therefore, the shopping cart presents itself as the apex example of whether a person will do what is right without being forced to do it. No one will punish you for not returning the shopping cart, no one will fine you or kill you for not returning the shopping cart. You gain nothing by returning the shopping cart. You must return the shopping cart out of the goodness of your heart. You must return the shopping cart because it is the right thing to do. Because it is correct. A person who is unable to do this is no better than an animal, an absolute savage who can only be made to do what is right by threatening them with the law and the force that stands behind it. The shopping cart is what determines whether a person is a good or bad member of society. Edit. Okay people, this is a copy pasta and not worthy of any fake internet awards. These being my first, however, I have no idea what to do with them. Can I pay them forward? I was fairly close to breaking up with someone on the spot after they decided it would be appropriate to take their groceries and leave their cart right at the exit of the checkout. It would immediately become a problem for the person checking out right behind us, as well as anyone else who was at the further down checkout lanes, as it would block their path. I asked them WTF they were thinking, and they were absolutely convinced that an employee was standing by, monitoring who left carts at the end of the aisle so they could rush them back to where they belong. She was technically correct, as eventually an employee would do it. However, it's not their job to wrangle carts in the store, and this is a massive violation of the implied social contract when shopping. A buddy of mine works as the head of HR for a fairly noteworthy and large company. He developed a question for this exact purpose. If you had the choice between $1 million, US, or a small army of genetically modified super chickens, which would you pick and why? Everyone under him, hiring staff, mediators, trainers, etc., is required to take a week-long training course to fully comprehend the extent of how much information can be gathered by asking a person this single question. Edit. Some of the comments asked for elaboration, and while I literally cannot go into tons of detail due to just how much info there would be to go through, I'll give a few points that I know of that help to explain why this one question is so valuable. Right after you ask the question, people will typically react in some form. If someone finds it funny, it indicates that they have a sense of humor. If someone finds the question stupid or off-putting, it shows that they probably take themselves too seriously and might possibly be closed-minded. If someone gives an immediate answer, they are typically prone to either making rash decisions or not thinking things through and considering their options. By contrast, asking more questions shows a willingness to learn and look at the big picture. If someone does ask more questions, the questions they ask gives a lot of insight into their thought process while you've still only asked one question. Each answer provided also supplies another reaction with which to glean further info about the answerer. Do they think creatively or practically? If you give a ridiculous answer to their question, how do they react? The reasoning behind their answer gives an understanding into what their goal is, what they want from the job, or even from their life as a whole. If you say you want the money, the reasoning behind why is important. Wanting the money to invest it is way different than wanting the money to buy a jet ski. Hope that helps. Yeah, the answers you might get from that could be scary. I thought about the question, and to me it comes down to the fact that even though no one else knew, I would know. So whatever it was I decided to do, would still need to be something that I could live with having done. Basically, something that didn't cause serious harm to anyone else, unless perhaps they were really deserving of it. Okay, my answer is, I would steal all of Donald Trump's money. Unfortunately, in Japan no questions reveal a lot about someone. Japanese people will gladly tell you about their public self. The concept is called tatemi, which roughly means facade, and is the hard-working, rule-following responsible member of society they are supposed to be. They will never tell you about their han, or true self. You'd have to become a very close friend to ever know that person. The serious-looking marketing director who tells you his only hobby is playing golf with clients probably also likes watching old reruns of 70s anime, collecting porn, and reading science fiction stories. He's never going to tell anyone that, and probably not even his wife. If it's like a serious discussion, ask them what's the biggest problem that affects them today. It'll give you a good idea of who they are based on their response. They might say something mature like I'm a mess and can't keep myself organized, I have to put all this shit on my phone just to remember. Or they might be like I guess where I'm going to get lunch. Helps distinguish. If the person is self-reflective. If the person is defensive/insecure. If the person is mature to identify their own weaknesses and actively seek to improve themselves. Then, because this AskReddit says what single question as the question, just ask the same question again later and see if the response is the same. If the person was just making something up to give you an answer, and doesn't actually reflect on their weaknesses, that'll be identified there. Sometimes it's not just about what question you ask, but it's also about how and when that can provide as much insight as the answer itself. I tend to ask, is there a habit that you'd like to adopt or break, or is there a particular skill that you want to learn? Something along those lines. Depending on their answer it tells you how well the person knows him/her/themselves, or if he/she/they are working on a better version him/her/themselves. Beware, they could choose to lie or be nonchalant about it, so take their response with a grain of salt, I guess. I did get asked, is there a family member that I admire or model from? I find myself wondering how close am I to my family to have any kind of admiration of them even to this day. It might be a controversial question, but I would ask about their opinions on gay rights, religious freedom, abortion, etc. Not because I'm a fanatic about those topics, but because if someone can't respect that these people deserve to live their lives without persecution or bigotry, that's not someone I want to be around. There's some history here. Op made a post in r/pics of Toronto police geared up to clear out a Hooverville, homeless encampment. The title said something ridiculous about police in military gear ready to assault people living with homelessness. Instead of the comments section talking about the image, everybody was talking about the bizarre euphemism. It's kind of funny because I was one of the people who called out Op for it, and then I stumbled upon the awfully specific response in this thread. Instead of owning up to using flowery language to push a particular viewpoint, they made a bunch of excuses. Apparently they're still sore about it. There is a runaway trolley barreling down the railway tracks. Ahead, on the tracks, there are 5 people tied up and unable to move. The trolley is headed straight for them. You are standing some distance off in the train yard, next to a lever. If you pull this lever, the trolley will switch to a different set of tracks. However, you notice that there is one person on the side track. You have two options. Do nothing and allow the trolley to kill the 5 people on the main track. Pull the lever, diverting the trolley onto the side track where it will kill 1 person. Which is the more ethical option? Or, more simply, what is the right thing to do? It just is though. The cost of not pulling the lever is like killing 4 people to save your own conscience. In a situation where you simply cannot be blamed for any casualties anyways. Like, I'm sorry, but if you seriously let 4 more people die than necessary just to feel like you didn't do anything wrong, I think you're a coward. Nobody can blame you for anything if you didn't tie those people to the train track. Edit. I appreciate the response. I really want to know the argument here. It's not really practical to actually ask, but I'm most interested in the basis for their moral system. Are they Kantian? Utilitarian? Maybe they haven't thought about it, or they follow some principle like do unto others or first do no harm. Or maybe they follow some set of rules in their holy book, S, or as described by their holy person, S. If they're religious, asking them why they believe in or follow their religion. Most times, you can get a time lapse of their experiences in a short answer. On the flip side, you can ask why they're not religious. Some folks have a story and you can see a glimpse of how that person handles themselves. Other folks say it's how they grew up, in a religious setting, or that's all they know. Plus, if you're lucky, you'll learn about different religions. When you poop in the shower, do you scoop it out to toss it in the toilet or do you waffle stomp it down the drain? Seem like a stupid question, but it can reveal some simple personality traits about a person. If they choose the first option, it could mean they follow the rules to get the proper end result. The later option could mean they are willing to do whatever needs to be done to correct a mistake. The third, and not listed, option is that they say they wouldn't poop in the shower to begin with, indicating that they would fix the problem before it became a problem. At least, that's how I've interpreted it. Do you think Ray is a Mary Sue? If they say no, chances are they also believe that climate change is real, they hate Trump, they believe in critical race theory, they support and participate in cancel culture and censorship, they support BLM and Antifa, they're socialists, or at least socialist-leaning, they think healthcare is a human right, they're in favor of open borders, and they unironically use phrases like check your privilege, patriarchy, and my truth. If they say yes, chances are they also deny climate change, or are at least skeptical of its extent/contributing factors, they support Trump, or at least prefer him to Hillary and Biden, reject critical race theory, they decry cancel culture and censorship, they oppose BLM and Antifa, they're economic libertarians, or at least lean that way, they think healthcare should be privatized, they really hate illegal immigration, and they unironically use phrases like fake news and reverse racism. There is a runaway trolley barreling down the railway tracks. Ahead, on the tracks, there are 5 people tied up and unable to move. The trolley is headed straight for them. You are standing some distance off in the train yard, next to a lever. If you pull this lever, the trolley will switch to a different set of tracks. However, you notice that there is 1 person on the side track. You have 2 options. Do nothing and allow the trolley to kill the 5 people on the main track. Pull the lever, diverting the trolley onto the side track where it will kill 1 person. Which is the more ethical option? Or, more simply, what is the right thing to do? You're in a desert, walking along in the sand, when all of a sudden you look down and see a tortoise. It's crawling toward you. You reach down and you flip the tortoise over on its back. The tortoise lays on its back, its belly baking in the hot sun, beating its legs trying to turn itself over, but it can't. Not without your help. But you're not helping. Why aren't you helping? Imagine you're a Jewish prisoner in a concentration work camp in 1943. One day, You and your son encounter a particularly sadistic guard who's bent on ending someone's life. Before you can react, he takes notice of you and your son. The guard says that he would like to hang your son, with you being the one to pull the lever that kills him. If you do not make the decision, the guard claims that he will open fire on a family in front of you. You have no doubts the guard will do what he is telling you. What do you do? Are you a cat person, dog person, or neither? A cat person will be slightly manipulative and demanding and leave when they don't get their way. A dog person is much more open and caring and will give until they have nothing left, and a neither person is one of two things: an all animal person or a no animal person. All animal people are like dog people but so much better, and no animal people are cold or heartless. This varies by case. This is not an exact answer but does give a general idea. How did you get into current occupation or area of study? They'll tell you a little narrative about the past decade-ish of their life. But it's not just HTE story, it's how they frame the story, themselves, anyone else, and what they leave out. Who's the victim? What didn't work out? Do they feel trapped, or is this their new best idea? Is this a terrible idea and they know it but they want you to think the series of misfortunes was deliberate? Late to the party but I have a good one. What's a common misconception that you think people have about you? This has always been a good one because you get to know one. What they think other people think about them, or what they project for other people to see versus two. What they believe about themselves / who they really are. What is your political view? Once you ask that question, all their beliefs for things like LGBTQ and religion may also be said. It's a pretty loaded question, but tells you what you need to know about them as a person in their beliefs. Not exactly an answer to this question because right use two parts. But the second question is the one I think reveals the most about someone. It might take a few questions / minutes of conversation to get to it. It starts with someone saying I've been doing a thing or gone somewhere. First question is what was the best part about it? They'll give some excited happy answer about what they loved. This does tell some but not the most. After they answer I ask what was the worst thing about it? This is where it gets interesting. If it was a good thing and the answer to that first question was positive, this one gets very interesting. You will never know the answer and this one is never delivered with the same excitement. It's usually a slow, "Hey, I gotta think about that," sort of answer. How do you get your news? Whether they mention an anchor, host, show, network, newspaper, government sources, peer-reviewed journal, social media platform, whether they mention multiple sources or just one. All of how they respond can tell you quite a bit about an individual's intelligence, worldview, personality, interests, motivation, influences, etc. It can also be asked as if you were looking for advice rather than flat out accosting them for their political opinions like you want to argue about it. They'll think they're being so helpful and informative for you, and will be more honest and less defensive. They'll possibly think you're looking to be influenced by their opinions and be confident about opening up. I'm sorry in advance for people who answer this simple question by yelling that the earth is flat, Hillary Clinton eats babies, shape-shifting lizard people from Nibiru run the world, and something else about gay frogs. I can't be held responsible. Just smile and nod, repeating, "I'll have to check that out," or "I never thought about it that way before," until they run out of scripted talking points and go away. What are you? Since it can be answered in any number of ways, whatever is the first answer that comes to mind will likely reveal what they value in themselves most. For example, answering "I am a dad" might reveal they are very family-oriented, "I am a student" might reveal the importance they place on education, or "I am a writer" might reveal they enjoy literature or that their job is important to them. "I am XYZ," however they answer, you can find out a lot about who this person is and where their values lie. I love to ask people, who are you? Being so open-ended, you can learn a lot based off what they say. Does their response revolve around owning things and status? Maybe they're materialistic and put a lot value in that. Which is fine if they feel they worked hard to achieve that, so be it. Maybe their answer was very goal-oriented and shows they're ambitious. And some people answer many times with hobbies. Which, if that's what they're passionate about, now I know more. It's great. Out who this person is and where their values lie. How are you? If they say fine and that's it, they're obviously lying and either don't have the time to explain or don't trust you enough to. If they give you a few more words but still short and sweet, it means they want to talk about it but are trying to follow social norms or don't want to burden you. If they completely break down and spill everything, that means no one has seriously asked them in a while and they're thankful for your willingness to listen. What is your favorite superhero/villain? Usually when you ask someone who their favorite superhero is, it shows a lot about the traumas that they relate to in the character the most. For example, if someone says Spider-Man, they relate to the fact that he has a lot of loss in his life. He lost his parents at a young age and then lost his uncle. They might have lost parents, grandparents, relatives in general, or friends, etc. With villains it is a similar concept, except instead of trauma it is the good traits that they have. Obviously some people may just like the character just because they are cool, but psychologically it goes deeper. The issue with most questions is that people can't simply choose not to answer or to lie. Instead, the question will include the entirety of humanity's knowledge about people, thus by revealing everything about everyone, it'll also do so about the person you're asking it. There is a problem with this, however. By the time the question is asked, they will have died, meaning they'd be different. As a result, the question would need to incorporate knowledge of all people of the time it'll be finished being asked. But then the problem with that is that this question will change each second. Still, I'd say it's good enough.